Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm Robert Kalin here with
Mike Newman. Great to be with you this morning and looking forward to our discussion today. Robert, what's our topic?
Yeah, we actually have a two-part series on leadership. And as I was kind of thinking about how to kick this thing off, Marcus Buckingham had a quote that I wanted to share with us.
Okay.
And he says, you look around and realize that we don't do that. We don't study excellence to learn about excellence. We study failure and invert it.
Mm-hmm.
To learn about health, we study disease. To learn about joy, meaning, and wisdom, we look at depression. To learn about how to increase engagement with our employees, we conduct exit interviews for the ones that leave. Everywhere we look, we seem to think that the opposite of good is just the opposite of bad, and that if we want good, you study bad and flip it. We're wrong. You study good and flip it, what you get is, or if you study bad and flip it, what you get is just not bad. And I love that quote.
Yeah.
What that says to me, leadership is something that you can't count it. It's really hard to measure. And so when we think about what does it mean to be a good leader, what does it mean, we all probably have like ideas or people in mind when we think about this. But there's been some really good studies out there that have been done, a lot of research around leadership that has been done. And there are some things that we know that make good leaders. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. What are the 5 practices of good leaders?
Yeah, this is from the work of James Cousins and Barry Posner, and their work that's a longitudinal work, which means it's done over a period of years. In fact, they've got 3 decades of research that they've done that they've figured out what these 5 qualities are, and it continues to show up every time they go out and do this. And so, Robert, again, those 5 qualities are going to be what?
Yep. So it's going to be model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, enable others to act, and encourage the heart.
Okay,
those are the 5. And, these might seem simple to us. These might seem really basic. They might seem like, oh yeah, we've heard this before. Now, let me just share this with you. Coach Vince Lombardi, arguably one of the best football coaches of all time, used to take the winning Green Bay Packers into spring training the same way that he took the losing Green Bay Packers into spring training, which was he would hold a football over the top of his head and he'd say, gentlemen, this is a football. And what he was signaling is we're going back to the basics. We're not assuming that anybody knows anything about this game, and we're going to study the fundamentals. And I think for us in this conversation right now, I want to set that tone that we're going to study the fundamentals of what it means to be a good leader, because you know what? We need more of them. We need more of them.
That's for
and
sure.
All of us could be better at practicing all of these. If I'm being honest, I know that I'm looking at these and I'm like, man, I could be better at practicing all of these. So,
and that may be something for each of you to do, is just jot down a note as we talk about these and kind of rate yourself and say, hey, do I do that frequently or do I do that rarely? And frequently being maybe a 5 and rarely being a 1. And maybe you're in the middle, like, oh, well, I do that sometimes when I feel like it. And if I'm having a great day, then yeah, I do that consistently. But if I'm a little down, then I kind of skate around that. So let's have you do that. Write these down, model the way, inspire a shared vision, challenge the process, and enable others to act. And then the last one is encourage the heart. And so I think that would be a great way for us to look at that. When we talk about modeling the way, some of us, when we started our leadership journey, we just wanted a title. And a title helps you out for about the first 3 months. Congratulations, you're a leader. And now you got to earn the respect of everybody around you. And so it's what we do to earn that respect that's about modeling the way.
Yeah.
And Robert, when we've had conversations about this, we talk about how titles really don't make a leader. It's the actions that we have that do that. And I've shared with Robert a story, maybe shared with some of you if you've heard me speak before, about a principal that I was doing my internship with. And he modeled the way. He wouldn't tell you what he was doing. I don't know if he did it subconsciously or consciously. Knowing him as well as I do, it was probably just his nature. But he modeled the way. And I remember this as clearly as it was yesterday. One of my first experiences as an intern with him was after lunch walking down the hallway. And he would bend over and pick up scraps of paper or wrappers or Ziploc bags or whatever kids had dropped along the way and not making it to the garbage can. And he'd put it in the garbage can. And so I stopped him and said, "Hey, why are you doing that? We've got a custodian to do that." He said, "The custodian's over there in the cafeteria cleaning up everything. He won't have time to get out here to do this. And if we don't pick up the stuff along the ways, this hallway is going to be a mess by the end of the day." And so he modeled the way. And in that, there were many things that I learned. One is that, first of all, there is not a single task that I'm too big to do, that my reputation, my title is too big. I can do the simplest thing like picking up trash to make a difference. And the second thing with that is that I think when we're talking about modeling the way, it's about who we are. Who we are. I'm not too big to do it, but I'm also going to be thinking about other people along the way. And so we heard many people say, do what I say, follow what I'm doing, but as leaders, our deeds are way more important than what our words say. People are watching us. People do what people see. And so when we do that, picking up the trash, I pick up the trash no matter where I'm at now. From that instance that was almost 40 years ago of him bending over, picking up a candy wrapper or a piece of paper on the floor. When I'm walking down the hallway of a business and I see paper on the floor, I'll bend over and pick it up because that's just what I do now, because he modeled the way for me. And that's a real simple example, but one that we can all apply every single day.
That's good. I love that. I love that story. It's got so much depth to it, even though it's a simple story. And I think it really shows, when we model the way, we have intentionality, but we're also taking action. We're not just intending, oh yeah, I meant to do that, or that would be a great idea. We're actually doing it. And I think that's the piece that oftentimes in our minds we say, well, I intended to do it, so therefore my intention was good. But our intentions don't mean anything if our actions don't follow. And so I absolutely love that. The second one is inspiring a shared vision. And that story also speaks a little bit to inspiring a shared vision because, you guys are at that school a team, right? And you're working together towards a bigger thing, which is a positive learning environment for the kids so that they can do their best work. And if their kids are walking around in a bunch of garbage, chances are they're going to be distracted. There's going to be things that happen. And so, Mike, share with us just a little bit about inspiring a shared vision and what that means to our leadership.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about a shared vision, it's about looking at what the future is, what's possible. And as leaders, we've got to project what that possibility is. And then it's enabling those possibilities to happen. And it's one thing for me to have a vision about where I want to go with my organization, with what I'm doing, the difference I want to make in the world. But you can't command commitment from your team. You've got to inspire it. And so I love the words they use in this, inspire a shared vision. And so you've got to come up with not only why is it personally good for me, but I also need to come up with where do they contribute to that vision as well. And everybody on your team should have a place inside of that vision, whether they're, as our example said, the building custodian, or whether they're the principal of the school. Everybody in between needs to know that they're part of that vision and how they contribute to it.
That's good. And I love the idea of, really understanding what your contribution is. As you're inspiring a shared vision, you're pointing out to people things maybe they don't know yet. Hey, do you realize how you are a part of the bigger thing? For the janitor, you are a part of creating this environment for these kids that when they come to work, there's a level of excellence when they come here, just because of the work that you do. You're not just the janitor, right. You're a part of this bigger thing that we're all working together to do. And sometimes we lose sight of that, I think, when we're inside of it and doing the daily grind. And so it's up to us as leaders to not just do it one time, but to remind people of why we're doing what we're doing, and sharing that often.
And sharing it often, I think one of the keys of that is that if you think you're tired of sharing your vision, you're probably just getting through to the people at this point in time. Some people say you need to share it 7 times, 7 different ways. And so if you do that math, that's almost 50 times you need to be sharing your vision in different ways to people. And you need to recognize when people are actually doing and implementing the vision and call it out to them. That, hey, great job on how you related to that customer. One of our values is to always take care of the customer. Spot on how you did that.
Yeah. That's good.
The third one that we had in this was challenge the process. And when you hear
before we get there, Mike,
before
we get there, I just want to share this one thought about the last one, because you said it could be 7 times 70 times, or 7 times 7, which is like 50 times. And if we're sharing once a week in our weekly meeting, that's almost a year before we get through. I mean, just to put it a little bit into perspective. So anyway, challenge the process. The next
challenge the process. When I read this the first time, when I heard this the first time, it kind of raised up a little bit of, resistance in so I don't want my people challenging me, and then when I started thinking about it, when we lift weights, when we exercise, we're challenging ourselves. And we've got to create an environment where it's okay to challenge the process, because every single personal best that ever happens is because you've been challenged. So my wife and I, we went and watched the movie this weekend, The Boys in the Boat.
Okay.
And it's an incredible story about 1936 rowing team from the University of Washington. It's a true story where they went on to win the Olympics. And I'm not ruining this story since it's true. It's already been told. But what happens in there is the coach challenges everybody's belief about who should be rowing the boat. And he doesn't go with the experienced team. And that's a crucial point in the movie, a crucial point in the whole story of the boys in the boat. But a crucial point for us in our leadership, too, is that sometimes challenging the process means we don't agree with everything that everybody else says we should be doing. And so the best leaders are simply the best leaders because they take on challenges that no one else is going to.
That's good. Yeah, challenges, we often don't think about this, but when we have challenge and it's hard, it's building our character. It's building our competencies. And those things that happen they happen under the surface, under the radar. We may not recognize that it's happening while it's happening. And when we look back, we're like, oh, now I see. Challenging the process is also, it doesn't say challenge the leader, right? It doesn't say challenge the leader. It says challenge the process of, how do we make what we're doing better? There could be a better way. We may not be doing that yet. And so I think challenging the process is a huge piece of what makes all great leaders great, and I think about even transitioning leaders. Maybe, you've just taken on a role that belonged to someone else, and you're getting a lot of challenge right now because guess what? You're doing it different than the way they used to do it. And that's okay. You're challenging the process for all the people that are underneath, not underneath you, but, reporting to you.
Reporting to you, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the fourth one we have is enable others to act. And this is one of them, Robert, that I think, that we sometimes do inadvertently to move things off our plate versus doing them intentionally to help people grow. So maybe talk with us a little bit about the difference between delegating to move stuff off your plate and delegating to help people grow.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think, oftentimes when we are ready to get things off of our plate, it's because we have too much going on. And to show someone how to do something, I think in our minds, we often say, well, it's just faster if I do it myself. And so I'm either going to do it myself and I'm going to not enable that person to do the job that I've hired them to do or that they're supposed to be doing. Or we take the other approach of saying, you know what, I need to get this person because it's the long game. If this task takes 10 minutes every single day and now I'm still spending 10 minutes every single day to do it, I'm showing them how to do it while I'm doing it. And then in the long run, once they get it, I'm able to free up myself 10 minutes every single day that's for something else, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's a piece of it. I think also what we do as leaders sometimes is maybe we don't fully meet people where they're at. There's a great example of, you hire somebody at your coffee shop to clean the windows. And, every single day they go in, they clean, or maybe it's once a week, they go in, they clean the windows and they've got the window cleaner in their rag and they're out there cleaning. And, they show up to work one day and they walk up to you and say, hey, I can't clean the windows. And you're like, why? Well, we don't have any window cleaner. Well, why didn't you let me know that we didn't have any window cleaner? You might be thinking. You're like, well, it was always there when I got to work. So I just never even thought about it. And as leaders, like, where are we telling people at this point? Let's draw a line on the window cleaner and say, hey, I'm going to communicate this. At this point, when you get here, I need to order more window cleaner because it takes a week to show up or whatever. But really creating a process in training people that allows for communication to happen, that develops them, that they also are getting a piece of the process of, I need to order this, so you need to communicate to me that we need it, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest breakdowns that we have is people just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the ownership
people don't know what they don't know, and so
the ownership of that task has with it responsibility. And so as a leader, when you are delegating something to somebody, you need to, some people have told me, use slow release as an idea. And that becomes that they show that they've earned your trust in that process, or you delegate responsibility and you give them your trust that they're going to order the stuff or tell you about it at the right time, that you're not saying that, tell me when it's all out, but tell me when I have the opportunity to take advantage of getting something here in time so we don't miss a beat. And that's part of that environment that we were talking about earlier in the part about, modeling the way and challenging the process of creating the environment where people feel that it's okay to let you know about things that are there. And you even tell them, I'm giving you this responsibility. Yes. And the last part that we have, Robert, the last part is encouraging the heart. And we've just got a couple minutes left here of our time today. So talk with us about encouraging the heart a little bit.
You know what? I think so often encouragement is left out of leadership in ways that it shouldn't be. And what I mean by that is people need encouragement more than they need advice. People need to be called up instead of called out. How much of our leadership is trying to course correct versus pointing out the good things that are happening? And again, it's that expectation that people should be here instead of us meeting them where they are here and calling them up. Encouragement is one of the biggest things. I think if all of us look back on our lives to leaders that we respect, we would find countless times with that leader where they have encouraged us in a way that nobody else had yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us as leaders, like, when's the last time you said an encouraging word to your team or to an individual employee or, your bookkeeper?
Yeah. When we talk about encouraging the heart, it's a process that for some of us, we've got to create something in our schedule, in our time frame to do that, to walk around the office, to point out things that are good, or whatever your business happens to be that you're talking with them individually. When we do these 5 things that we're talking about, we create higher performing teams. And who doesn't need a higher performing team? We also generate through that increased sales and better customer relationships, and we foster, some renewed loyalty with our employees and the greater part of the organization. I think when we do these things and we're consciously doing them as we go about whatever we do within our day, we are intentionally making a difference for our business, for our employees, for our customers, and for ourselves. Robert, you started today's conversation with Marcus Buckingham, and the part about studying bad, you flip it and you only get not bad.
Yep.
Marcus Buckingham is going to be speaking at Live to Lead on February 21st at Calvary Community Church in Sumner. He'll be one of our 4 speakers at Live to Lead: John Maxwell, Kendra Scott, Ryan Leake, and Marcus Buckingham. Marcus Buckingham is going to talk about the concept of love and work. And he's going to pull out for you some of these things here that we've just talked about modeling the way, about encouraging the heart. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. So I'd encourage you to get your seat at Live to Lead, and you can do that. We'll drop that in the show notes so that we have it, and you can register and really move yourself forward in 2024.
Yeah, and so if you're local, you'll want to do that. If you're not local, we will also have a link in the description that you can jump on and get a virtual replay of that. So you guys, I hope this has been helpful for your leadership, for us to focus not just on the big things, but on the foundational pieces, the practices that we have as leaders. And remember that leadership is ultimately our responsibility in our organization. And so how are you going to show up? How are you going to use these 5 practices today, tomorrow, and continue to use them to help you build the organization of your dreams, and one that inspires other leaders to grow? So I'm excited for you guys to come to Live to Lead. I'm excited to continue the conversation next week with you, Mike. And until then, take care. God bless.
All right. You guys have a great week.
Thank you for joining us. Our hope is this episode has been helpful for you today. If it's impacted you in some way, we encourage you to share it with someone. To receive a direct notification of our next episode, click the follow button on your favorite app or platform. You can also watch each episode on YouTube. The links are in the description. If you want to connect with us on a deeper level, go to countercultureleadership.com/resources. We'll see you next week on the Elevate Podcast.